Hello and welcome. We're about to jump into one of the biggest puzzles in all of philosophy, Plato's incredibly confusing ideas about art. How could one of the smartest people in history think beauty was this divine path to truth, but at the same time see art as this dangerous, corrupting poison? It's a real head-scratcher. So, let's get into it. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of the problem. On one hand, Plato treats art, we're talking poetry, painting, the whole deal, as one of the biggest threats to a person's soul and to a stable society. But on the other hand, he puts beauty up on this pedestal as this supreme value, a stepping stone to wisdom itself.
So here's the big question we're going to try and tackle. How do we make sense of this? Was Plato just confused? Or is there some kind of deeper logic that we're missing? We're going to dig in and look at both sides of his argument. And we'll start with his deep, deep reverence for beauty.
All right, so first up, the case for beauty. Now, the literature suggests that for Plato, beauty wasn't just, a nice thing to look at. It was this objective feature of the universe that, if you appreciated it in the right way, could literally lead your soul to enlightenment.
To really get what Plato's talking about, we have to look at this one key word, kalon. See, the ancient Greek word he uses for beauty is all tangled up with ethics. It doesn't just mean pretty. Kalon can also be translated as noble, admirable, or fine. So when Plato talks about appreciating beauty, he's also talking about recognizing goodness itself. They're connected.
And this whole idea is laid out perfectly in what's called Diotima's ladder of love. Just look at this progression. It's a philosophical climb. You start at the bottom with something simple, a physical attraction to one person's body. Then you learn to see that same beauty in all bodies. From there, you climb higher. You start to appreciate beauty that isn't physical, like the beauty of a good soul or of just laws. That leads you to a love for the beauty of knowledge, and then finally you reach the top, a direct vision of the form of beauty itself, this pure, eternal, perfect idea of beauty.
So here's the big takeaway from this side of the argument. Beauty acts like a guide. It's the one perfect form that actually has a clear, powerful reflection we can see and feel in our world. It's like a bridge that reminds our souls of that higher reality and makes us want to go find it.
Okay, hang on a second. That's a really compelling case for beauty as this ultimate philosophical good. But it brings us to some pretty sharp countervailing evidence. If beauty is this incredible guide to the truth, then why did Plato want to literally banish most poets from his ideal city in the Republic? Why did he think artists were such a massive threat?
Right. And that brings us to Plato's other, much darker view. His absolutely ruthless attack on art as this dangerous, deceptive practice. This is the side of the argument where art doesn't lead us to the truth at all. In fact, it actively pulls us away from it.
The core concept we have to understand here is mimesis, which means imitation. Now, for Plato, this wasn't some neutral act of creation. No, it was the act of making a flawed copy, a shadow of a shadow. And he believed the fundamental danger of art was rooted right there, in that imperfect act of copying. Plato's famous couch example just lays this all out perfectly. Look at these 3 tiers. At the very top, tier 1, you have the form of the couch, the true, perfect idea of a couch, made by a god. Okay. One step down, tier 2, is the actual physical couch that a carpenter builds. It's just one copy of that true form. But then, way down at the bottom, tier 3, you have the artist's painting of the couch. It's not even a copy of the real thing. It's a copy of the carpenter's copy. So the artist, Plato says, is 3 removes from the truth. And when you put the two side by side like this, it is just a total opposition. True beauty leads you to truth in this higher, intelligible realm, and it is fundamentally good. But mimetic art, it leads you to illusion. It keeps you stuck in this sensible world, and because of that, it is dangerous.
And the danger wasn't just some abstract philosophical problem. The literature indicates Plato believed this stuff was psychologically toxic. He argued that drama and tragic poetry appeal to our worst emotions, grief, anger, pity, and they make us indulge them. This whole process bypasses our reason, the part of our soul that's supposed to be in charge, and it ultimately makes us weaker, less virtuous people.
Okay, that is a pretty brutal critique. It sounds like there's no room for art at all in Plato's world. But is there a way to resolve this? The literature also points to another one of Plato's theories that could, maybe, offer a defense for some kinds of art. And that's the theory of divine inspiration.
To explain this, he uses this incredible magnet analogy. The muse, the source of inspiration, is like the magnet. The poet,
They're just the first iron ring, which gets magnetized not because of their own skill, but because of this divine power flowing through them. Then the performer is the next ring, and the audience is the final ring, all of them held together in this chain of divine energy.
So what this does is it creates a potential loophole, right? If the poet isn't just imitating reality, but is actually possessed by a god, then maybe their art isn't a flawed copy. Maybe it's a channel for a divine truth that even the artist doesn't fully understand.
It's a compelling idea, for sure, but it immediately slams into a brutal methodological problem that Plato himself points out. If the poets are just empty vessels, if they're creating without any actual knowledge or reason, how can we possibly trust what they say? How do we know the difference between a divine truth and just inspired nonsense? I mean, listen to Plato's own words right here. He completely exposes the fatal flaw. Inspired artists are just not reliable. Yeah, they might accidentally stumble upon some truth, but they have no real understanding of it. They can't explain it, they can't defend it, they can't teach it. And for a philosopher like Plato, who valued real knowledge above everything else, that's just not good enough. And here's the kicker. The evidence suggests Plato used this whole divine inspiration idea very strategically. He didn't use it to defend all poetry. No, he used it to save only the kinds of art he already thought were safe. State-approved hymns to the gods and songs praising heroes. The dramatic, emotional, imitative art that he was so scared of, that was never given a pass.
So where does that leave us? We've walked through the powerful case for beauty as a guide to truth, and the equally powerful case against art as this corrupting illusion. And the whole idea of divine inspiration, instead of fixing the problem, just seems to make the tension even clearer.
It seems like, in the end, Plato doesn't give us one single, neat theory of art. What he gives us instead is this brilliant diagnosis of a set of fundamental conflicts. The conflict between reason and emotion, between philosophy and poetry, between truth and illusion. And maybe the conflict itself is the point. Maybe that's the real takeaway, the struggle that's at the very heart of what it means to be human. Plato called it the ancient quarrel between philosophy and poetry. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In our world today, which is so saturated with beautiful images and compelling stories and powerful media, is this ancient quarrel actually more relevant than ever? Is that tension between appealing illusions and hard-won truth still the central challenge we all face?